Hey, how we doing, everybody? Matt Johnson, mattjohnsonsales.com, located at John North Ford in Emporia, Kansas, and going to cover today in Car Confessions episode number 6. Going to cover a few things today. Topic I get asked quite a bit: the differences between leasing versus buying. What are the pros, cons of going into a lease versus purchasing outright? So going to cover a few of those topics today. I checked 3 different sources while doing my homework on them, and all 3 came down to relatively the same ones. So I wanted to cover those with y'all first today. We're going to go over leasing first and cover the pros of leasing. If you see me looking down, I've got some notes here just so I stay on topic, stay on track. And if you guys have any questions after this, by all means, please feel free to reach out to me, text me, call me, or reach out to me on Facebook. So some of the pros for leasing: typically the payments are much lower leasing than purchasing a vehicle, because you're only paying for the amount of the vehicle that you use. So you're paying for just that depreciation that you use as well. So you're keeping that, paying for the difference between the depreciation and the residual value. So you're keeping that payment lower and paying towards that, so it keeps your payments lower. Like I said, it's part of the vehicle that you actually use. Another pro is you're driving a newer, sometimes better, definitely safer vehicle more often. So you're getting into a newer vehicle every 2 to 3 years, depending on you and your situation. Whether you choose 2 or 3 years, entirely up to you, but you know, your lifestyle may change from that 3-year period of, you know, getting a compact or mid-size sedan. 3 years later, you may be getting married, have had some kids, and need to go to a crossover SUV. So you're getting into a newer, better, safer vehicle for less money and more often. Typically, the repair costs are lower because it's covered under, most vehicles are covered under manufacturer warranty for 3 years, 36,000 miles. So unexpected repairs are less because it's covered under that 3-year, 36,000 mile manufacturer warranty. Number 4, you can more easily transition into a new vehicle every 2 to 3 years, because you don't have to deal with, and this ties into number 5, you don't have to deal with the hassles of going through trading in, going through the back and forth of, you know, I think my trade's worth this much, you're saying it's worth this much, you need to come up, or selling it outright. So you don't have to, I know a lot of people sell on Facebook right now, and you have to deal on the buy, sell, trade pages with people saying they're interested and then not hearing from them for 2 or 3 days. And, you know, following the rules, you have to give them first chance at it. And the reason that it's a lot easier to transition, you don't have to go through that hassle, is because Ford, for example, will guarantee what the residual value is going to be in, let's say, 3 years. So in 3 years, your car is going to be worth this much money, and at that point, you have the option of bringing it back and just handing us the keys, walking away, and don't want to do another lease. You can bring it back, tell us you want to purchase it. Now, doing that, if you purchase it, which is an option, we have people that do that, it keep in mind at that point it's going to be a used vehicle and the interest rate will be a little bit higher. Third option, you return that lease and look at doing another lease. So if you're driving a Ford Fusion for 3 years and decide, you know, I need something a little bit bigger, I'm more active, my lifestyle has changed, look at going to, you know, a Ford Edge, which is a great mid-size SUV crossover, or maybe a Ford F-150, because now you need a truck for work or just everyday life. And number 6 on the pros, you'll pay less sales tax, because the sales tax is built into your payment. So again, you're only goes back to only paying the amount of the vehicle that you use. The cons for leasing, and everybody knows this. This is one of the biggest objections we hear. That's why I put it first. Is you don't own the car at the end of the lease. This is correct. You don't own the car at the end of the lease because you're bringing it back, getting a newer car going into a new lease. So you're not going to own it. You're going to bring it back, go into a new lease, hopefully, and get you either a larger vehicle, or maybe, you know, you're doing just the opposite and you're downsizing and need to step down a vehicle. Number 2 for the cons, a lot of times every time there's limited mileage on a lease. So you have to figure out or have an idea of how often you're going to drive. Most leases are 10,000, 12,000, or 15,000 miles. So if you are looking at doing a lease, have an idea of how often you drive. Best way to do that, however long you've owned the vehicle, how many miles that you bought the vehicle at, how many miles it has currently, and divide by that time frame. That usually gives you an idea of how many miles that you drive each year. Like myself, I drive right around 10,000 miles a year. My wife, she drives about 8,000 miles a year. So we are great candidates for the lease option. Number 3, unfamiliar terminology in the contracts. Some people get confused by some of the terminology that is used in the lease contracts, because it's a little bit different than buying it, saying that you're going to buy this for 5 or 6 years, whatever term you do, which is now the average is at least 5, sometimes 6 years, and as opposed to leasing it for 2 to 3. Number 4, may potentially pay more in the long run. What that involves is, you know, somebody buys a vehicle, they have a loan for 6 years, they keep it for 10 years, and then trade it in. Where if one person kept it for 10 years, somebody else could have gone through a lease 3 times. There's that potential that you're going to pay for it. Now that's kind of a fine line, because yes, you have that vehicle for 10 years, so there's a period of 4 or 5 years you're not paying any vehicle payments, but it's a used vehicle. Things are going to go wrong with it. We all know they do. Things happen. You know, they break down. You're paying tires, brakes, the transmission flush, coolant flush, whatever the manufacturer recommends at certain mileage terms is what you're potentially paying for. Whereas the lease, you know, unexpected repairs, you bring it to the dealership and it's covered under that 3-year, 36,000 manufacturer warranty. So now you bring it in and have us look at it, have us fix it. Obviously, that's not going to include abuse, wrecks, some type of damage. So keep that in mind as well. Which leads into number 5 on the con list of excessive wear and tear charges. There is that potential if you are extremely hard on vehicles, or if you have something unexpected, have have an accident, have some spills, some stains in the vehicle that aren't able to get out, there are charges that may occur with that if you don't get some type of lease insurance. And number 6 on the con list is leases can be costly to terminate. So if you decide that you don't want to continue a lease anymore and you want to look at doing something else, just know that it could cost you more to get out of a lease than finish paying for it. So on to the buying, the purchasing part of it. So pros for buying: you can do modifications and alterations to your vehicle because you own it. You don't have to turn it back in to the dealership or the lender. So with the leases, any type of alteration that you do, aftermarket stereo, tires, rims, keep in mind that it has to be returned at the end of the lease to how it was brand new at factory. So any type of modifications, alterations aren't able to be done on a lease, where purchasing, you can, if you're doing a truck, you can lift it up, put oversized tires on there, put a truck wrap or decals on there, DVD players in the headrest or in the ceiling if they don't have it in there. All those types of modifications you can do on purchasing. Number 2 is may save money long term. Like I mentioned with the con, may potentially pay more in a lease. Ties right into that. Like I said, you pay it off in 6, keep it for 10. Somebody else is going to go through 3 leases within that time. There's a fine line. Every situation is different. So somebody that kept it for 10 years may have less cost of ownership versus somebody that does 3 leases in 10 years. Or on the other side, the cost of that used vehicle at year number 10 has just been substantial, and they had so many unexpected problems and issues that it's cost them as much or more than it would have to lease. Number 3 on the pro, drive as much as you want. So there's no limitation to driving when you own a vehicle. So there's no limit for mileage. You can drive as much as you want. So if you work out of town, you travel a lot, putting 25,000 miles a year on a vehicle, maybe a lease isn't for you and you're better off purchasing. Number 4 is flexibility. So you can flexibility on purchasing a vehicle, whether it's new or used. You can sell it, trade it whenever you want. There's no stipulation. Just know that as long as you have a loan on that and you're making the minimum payment, there's a break-even point somewhere in that loan, and you'll have to know where that is so you're not carrying some over to the next loan. Number 5, you have a trade at the time of each purchase. So every time you buy, whether you keep it for 6 years or 10 years, you'll have a trade, and you may have to put money down. Your trade may be valuable enough that you won't have to put any money down. All right, we're going to switch over to the cons. So con number 1 of purchasing a vehicle is pay a higher down payment to avoid being upside down or higher payments. So you're typically always going to pay a higher down payment when purchasing, especially starting out. There's some lenders that will require as much as 10 or 20% cash down when purchasing a vehicle. With the leases, you have little to no, because you're paying the drive-off fee, or we can a lot of times waive that fee and push that back into the payments. It will make your payment a little bit higher on the lease, but you're not putting any money down. Monthly payments are typically higher, like I mentioned, because you're paying for the full price of the vehicle instead of the amount of vehicle that you actually use. Your payments will typically be higher unless you put substantial money down. So just be aware of that. Most people ask why they see it advertised on TV at, you know, a truck payment at $400 when they come in to buy it and it's closer to $900. That's just an example. Those are just numbers I'm pulling out of the air. So just disclaimer there. Con number 3, repair costs add up. Repair costs can add up. Just like anything else on a new or used vehicle, we do offer extended warranties, service contracts on those to help offset that, depending on if you have enough to cover the cost of the repair. Many people don't, which is why we offer those. And just keep in mind, if you don't, things may go wrong down the road. It happens, and just be prepared for those costs when they come up. Number 4 is trade-in selling hassles when ready to purchase. Like I mentioned earlier, you may run into that, have an issue with that because, you know, well, I think my trade-in is worth this much. You're saying it's worth this much. Why are you trying to cut me off at the knees when I want this much or I need this much for my vehicle? There's a lot of time and energy that's spent going into that, but keep in mind that a lot of people always want the retail value of their vehicle. There's a lot of dealerships that don't even ask retail when they sell a vehicle, whether it's new or used. So with that, just be careful, because if you're wanting the retail value of your vehicle and we're not asking the retail value, that doesn't make sense for us to give you the retail value. Con number 5, more money tied up in a car than it may be worth. So the depreciation of whether it's new or used is going to come into play there, and so you may be upside down on a loan. Like I mentioned, you have to find that break-even point, and if you're just making a minimum payment, it's only going to be so much each month that you're just going to whittle away. Some people will extend a loan out to 6 years to drop the dollar amount of the loan, but then they'll pay 2 payments. Or, you know, if it drops the payment down to $320 a month, well, I can afford to pay $400 a month, so I'm paying an additional $80 each month. That will help drop it quickly and help absorb some of that depreciation. I hope a lot of this has helped you guys kind of answer the questions. If you feel like a lease or a purchase is your area, or you're a better candidate for a lease versus a purchase, like I mentioned, my wife and I are better candidates for a lease. When we purchased our vehicle 2 years ago from the dealership we bought it for, we weren't even given the option of doing a lease. So it was a 4-year-old vehicle at the time, and doing a whatever the loan amount is, I don't remember off the top of my head, but had we done a lease or been given the option of a lease and explained it to us, we could have drove off with a brand new vehicle, 2 trim levels above, paying less than we're paying right now for a 4-year, well, now it's a 6-year-old vehicle, and I think we still have 3 more years left on the loan. So by the time it's paid off, it's going to be almost a 10-year-old vehicle, and I know, being in the business, it's not going to be worth a whole lot by then. So I try to give everybody the option of doing a lease, but not everybody's a candidate. So it's my job to ask you, find out all the information I can to see if you're a good candidate for it. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me, 620-794-1032. Again, 620-794-1032. Call, text. You can visit mattjohnsonsales.com and email me from there. Thank you guys. I appreciate you watching. If you have questions, comments, please leave them below or reach out to me. And thank you guys, and thank you for watching. please make sure to reach out to me and let me show you that there is a better way to buy. Thank you guys. We'll see you next time.